Hey everyone, we are catching up with Paul. He's standing trial before Felix. He's in Caesarea. Again, I said this is a whole period of trials. So we're going to move through probably pretty quickly just to give you the overview and where things are going. So Paul is standing trial before Felix, and so he's in Caesarea. And then, so the Jews come up from Jerusalem to Caesarea. Obviously, if you read the Bible, Acts, you'll see, again, encourage you to read it, chapter 24. It won't be hard to read a whole chapter in a week. But you'll see that people always go down from Jerusalem. That's just the way they kind of spoke about Jerusalem. It's on a hill, but you go up to Jerusalem, you go down from. But anyway, Caesarea is north of Jerusalem. So they come up from Jerusalem, and the trial is happening. A proper trial, kind of. Felix, the Roman governor, and he's got Paul on one side, and Paul's been there a little bit, not long, but a little bit, and he's got the Jewish leaders on the other side. Now, the Jewish leaders go first, the accuser brings their accusation, then the defender gets to say what's going on. So the the Jews say, hey, this bloke has been stirring up trouble. He's been going around all over the place, which we know he has. We've got all these bottles lit up, kind of reminding us of all the places that Paul has gone. He's gone all around the place, and he's stirred up trouble, and he's caused riots, and he's incited unrest. And, it sounds like it's right. If you remember, there was unrest in Sydney and Antioch, in Lystra, in Derbe, in Iconium. There was issues in kind of Thessalonica and Corinth. There was issues in Ephesus. That was a really big one. There's issues pretty much everywhere he goes. There's some form of riot or whatever everywhere Paul goes. And it's all Paul's fault. He incites it. He brings it up. So that's the Jewish leaders. That's what they say to Felix. Now, Paul then says, actually, Felix, that's not true. This is what I've done. And actually, it wasn't true, because if you can remember, in each and every one of these places, it's not Paul who starts the riot. In Ephesus, for example, I can never remember his name. I said it a while ago. I probably should have checked it again. But I think it's Demetrius. I definitely didn't say that last time. But Demetrius, I think the silversmith, starts a riot. In fact, he starts it so bad that the guy there, the governor there goes, if you don't disperse, I'm going to have to charge you all with rioting. Not Paul. No, it's the Demetrius and stuff like that, the silversmith and all his guys. So, Paul goes, hey, Felix, I know you're just. I know you're going to give a fair trial. I know you're a good bloke. So here's my side of the story. So Paul says, look, you're going to do your job, and I can trust you, and this is what's going on. The issue Paul has is that Felix just puts it off. Felix goes, too hard basket. I'll wait till the Lysander comes. He's the captain of the guard or whatever. I'll wait till he comes and then I'll make my decision. So he just puts it off. Doesn't really do his job, which again, not uncommon. Paul is then put in house arrest with some freedom. So think of it as lockdown and curfew, really. We're free. There's just some strict rules and regulations around us. So Paul is basically the same thing in house arrest, where he can do a lot of stuff. He has some freedom, so he's not a dangerous prisoner. Felix has gone, yeah, Paul, you're not a dangerous prisoner. You're not doing anything. You're not inciting revolts. You can be out and about in public, maybe with a Roman guard. You probably would need one to make sure the Jewish leaders didn't try to kill him. But you're not dangerous to anyone. And then we see that there's a little bit of stuff that's going on, and I will read that for us because it's important that we kind of see how Paul is messed around. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. While Paul was in house arrest, he probably wrote some of the letters that we have today. So the letters to the Corinthians, the Ephesians, Colossians, Philippians, those kind of ones. Maybe some of his pastoral epistles, Timothy, Philemon, that kind of stuff. Titus, so maybe they were written in this time, or some of them were, not all of them, that would have been really hard, but some of them were written in this time. But this is kind of how law worked, right? So verse 22, Acts 24, encourage again, read the whole chapter, but I'll just read 22 onwards. Then Felix, who was well acquainted with the way, again, the way was the kind of the name Christian, basically. The way was the word that was used for Christians, followers of Jesus. Felix, who was well acquainted with the way, adjourned the proceedings. When Lysias, the commander, comes, he said, I will decide your case. So that's the putting it off, can't really be bothered. He ordered the centurion to keep Paul under guard, but give him some freedom and permit his friends to take care of his needs. Several days later, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish. He sent for Paul and listened to him as he spoke about faith in Christ Jesus. As Paul talked about righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come, Felix was afraid and said, "That's enough for now, you may leave. When I find it convenient, I will send for you." At the same time, he was hoping that Paul would offer him a bribe, so he sent him for him frequently and talked with him. When 2 years had passed, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus. But because Felix wanted to grant a favour to the Jews, he left Paul in prison. So Paul is left in house arrest, in prison, and Felix gets him to come and talk with him a little bit, and you can kind of see, he gets afraid because Paul talks about self-control, righteousness, and judgment. So Paul speaks to somebody who probably doesn't have much self-control. They're a governor, they can do whatever they want. About righteousness, when again they can do whatever they want and probably know they haven't necessarily been that kind of right in their life. And judgment, that there is someone more powerful than them who will judge them. So they're afraid and no, that's enough for now, go away. But we also see that he keeps on talking with Paul. Now, it wasn't uncommon for people to kind of abuse their power. It's not uncommon now. It is very, very common for people with power. Felix had power to abuse that power. He keeps Paul in prison, but sends for him often, hoping that he'd get a bribe. Basically, I'll just keep doing this, Paul, until you pay the money, and then you'll be free. Now, obviously, Paul doesn't do that, but there is that abuse of power. Now, that should really annoy us, because as followers of Jesus, and actually God really cares about people who are vulnerable. And so when we look at something like this, we should see the injustice of it, and that's not something that God looks on favourably. All throughout the Bible, it is from Genesis all the way through to Revelation, it is very, very clear that God cares about those who are vulnerable. And when people have power, those people ought to take care of those who don't. So as followers of Jesus, if you're a follower of Jesus and you have any power, and if I have any power, we should be using that power to benefit other people. We shouldn't be using that power to put people down. We shouldn't be using that power to kind of separate people off or get money off people or anything like that. We should be using that power to help those who don't have power, the vulnerable. What Felix should have done when he heard about self-control and righteousness and judgment had said, actually, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to be just, and I'm going to do what I should. I won't worry about what the Jews think about me, which we see he keeps Paul in prison unjustly. Rather than doing that, I'll release Paul because he shouldn't be charged for anything. There's no crime that he's committed. That would be the right thing to do, the just thing to do. I should use my power to do justice. But he doesn't. He uses his power to keep Paul in prison and hope that Paul gives him a bribe. So it's a bit of a challenge for you and me because power is really, really hard to let go of. There is a quote with kind of power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The power is dangerous. So, and that could be anything. Maybe you're the leader of your friendship group. Maybe you're president of class or sports captain or any of those things where you kind of have a bit of a say. Maybe you're in a friendship group where you are well liked by everyone, where no one thinks bad of you, and maybe you can see someone else who that friendship group bully or pick on. That's not okay. We as Christians, we as followers of Jesus shouldn't stand by and let that happen. We shouldn't be part of it at all. Maybe you're on the other end. Maybe you're on the end where you're the one who's actually the vulnerable one. You're the one who's picked on. You're the one who bullies kind of go after. Maybe that's what's life like for you. Either way, we can see that God does not like that God cares about you. If you're vulnerable and you're being picked on, it's not that God doesn't care about you. He cares about you an awful lot, and he's not happy with people who do it. So we can trust and lean into God when we are the ones who are vulnerable. And when we're the ones with power, we should listen to what God says we should do with that power and help those who are. Hopefully we can see a bit. Obviously there's a bit that we're moving through. Hopefully you can see how things are going for Paul and kind of broad strokes. In the meantime, have a great week.